Okay, next up is Marco from Thumbtack. Hey, Marco, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good. So we met a couple of years ago, and full disclosure, I'm an investor in your company. I think I was one of the first.
You were one of the first angel investors.
And when was that?
In the spring of 2010. It was actually the Open Angel Forum that
really?
kicked off the whole angel run.
That's when I started inviting angel investors over to my house or other people's houses to invest in companies, and you were one of the first. And now it's a couple of years later, and Sequoia's invested in a bunch of other folks. Let's take a look at what you're doing specifically.
Sure.
Oh, you want to plug in your phone here?
Yeah, just to give a bit of background. You know, Thumbtack helps you accomplish the personal projects that are central in your life, be it repainting your house, getting in shape, helping your kid learn how to play the piano. And these aren't new problems, right? We didn't impose this or create this problem, but we're going about solving it in a very new way. Today, you can go online and find names and numbers of professionals in a heartbeat, right?
Sure, Yelp
Google, all this stuff. The challenge, though, is then you as the customer have to do all of the legwork to figure out which of these folks is available, which one's interested in my job, how much are they going to charge me, are they a good fit for me? And quite simply, it's a pain in the ass.
It's really hard to get local services.
It's very hard. And so we've basically flipped the model.
Okay, let's see.
And we can show you what that looks like.
And this is not where you started. I remember when you started, it was more like a directory, wasn't it?
It was a little bit different.
Let's pull the iPhone up, if we can. Okay. There we go. Boom.
There we go. So this is our new iPhone app. And this is what it looks like when you get started. So imagine if I was looking for catering in my zip code in San Francisco. Typically, what you would have gotten here on any other site is a list of all the caterers in San Francisco. But actually, that's not very helpful. I want to know which ones are available and interested in my job. So Thumbtack then asks, you know, what type of catering do I need? It's a dinner. I'm looking for a...
Now, wait a second. You're glossing over. You pick dinner, and now it is asking you the next logical question. It might have asked you something different if you picked a different first choice.
Exactly.
So you're building some sort of threaded map of questions here.
And we've done this for almost 1,000 different categories. And basically, we're creating this SKU of every service you can think of. Because we end up asking you more questions than you even know. Actually, let's go cocktail party. What type of event is it? Well, this is a cocktail party. Well, it's my birthday next week, so we'll do birthday party. I need setup, I need cleanup, I need a bartender, no servers. Type of food, I want barbecue. It probably asks more questions than the customer knows themselves to ask. And this is a big part of what we help with. We're educating on what is possible. And I'm willing to spend 40 to 50. And at this point, Thumbtack knows exactly what I need. And that makes it possible for you, the customer, to get connected with exactly the right professionals. So I won't actually post this, but I will show you one I did this morning. So I'm staying with a buddy, and I wanted to get him and his wife a massage as a gift. So I put in a request, and I instantly got, well, an hour and a half later, I got these 5 quotes back. And now what I'm able to do is, first off, compare prices. I can go in and sort of see what they specialize in. If I want to go in and read their profile and learn more about this customer, I can go in and read that. And for the first time, I didn't have to do this legwork. This person came to me. And what we're really helping with is giving customers the confidence to hire exactly the right person. In the past, you'd go out and make all those calls, but you'd never be sure, did I find the right person? Did I get a good price? But because we're bringing it to you, we've sort of flipped that and made it much easier. And it's going very well. So we can flip to the slides at this point, unless you're...
Yeah, flip over the slides. I mean, I think it's a very elegant and simple app. How do you know when you're asking too many questions, I guess, is one thing.
So we
can see the slides here too. Would be good. Yeah.
We actually see conversion rates go up when we ask the right questions. So typically, you add questions to a form, you see conversion rates go down because customers are annoyed. What we see is it gives them confidence that we know what we're talking about, that we're going to get them connected to the right person. So we use that conversion rate as a way of auditing whether we've put in too many questions or too few.
And this is the cumulative?
And this is the total business that we've sent to professionals. So last year we sent almost $700 million worth of business to our professionals. Last month we sent them $200 million.
Wow.
So we've seen a lot of growth, 4x growth year over year, and there are now 3 million customers coming a year, sort of getting their projects accomplished through Thumbtack. And I think what's underappreciated is obviously, this was a pain for customers in the past to go out and find and hire the right person. It was actually even more of a pain for these service professionals. You know, imagine being a plumber and always being on the hunt for a new customer. Traditionally, the only avenues that you had to advertise yourself were things like Yelp or the Yellow Pages, basically pay for placement. You spent a fixed fee, put your ad up there, and then hoped for the best. On Thumbtack, it works very differently. So when you as a customer come in and sort of request a service from us, we send that out to the network of pros that we already have, and then they can choose whether to respond. There's no obligation. They have total discretion. They can read exactly what the customer wants, and that is the best marketing solution that they've ever had, and that's enabled us to scale this very, very quickly. Can we move to the next slide?
Yeah.
So this is a comparison between us, Angie's List, and Yelp in terms of the number of paying professionals or paying businesses on the platform. We're at 63,000, so we're now bigger than Angie's List in terms of paying professionals, and we're almost going to catch up with Yelp, who are just at 72,000, I believe.
But you have no sales force.
But we have no sales force. So we've done this in a completely different way. They go out and hire a bunch of new grads to dial for dollars, right? Call down their list of businesses and get them to sign up for yearly contracts. We haven't had to do that because the product sells itself. What we do is we'll spend money to buy advertising to build awareness among service professionals of our offering, but then it's self-serve. It's a true self-serve platform where they tell us what they do, where they do it, the type of jobs that they like to do best, and then we send it to them. If they're interested, they pay for that introduction, and if they're not, they can pass.
So what is the caterer for your 30-person cocktail party for your birthday next week going to pay you? So a percentage of the cost, or you come up with a dollar amount?
We come up with a fixed dollar per category that estimates a take rate on the job value. So catering is actually a pretty big ticket. However, a lot of the cost goes to food. So it can't use the same percentage as, say, something where there is no material cost involved. So I think
like a massage.
Like a massage, where it's pure margin. So catering, I believe, is like $12 per introduction.
And that's per introduction, whether they get the client or not.
Correct.
So they have to look at, oh, I'm going to buy 100 of these for $1,200. I need to convert 5, or whatever it is, to get a $200 per closing of a sale.
Yep. And the ROI is ultimately how they judge us, right? If the dollars in aren't more than the dollars out, they're never going to stick around. But our model has given them a better ROI than they've seen anywhere else. We hear all the time of people leaving Angie's List, leaving Yelp, leaving Craigslist, because we give them both the control they're after as well as the ROI.
So how many service providers, because I used it recently, and this wasn't the original business, right? The original business was more directory-like?
Yeah, it had more of a directory feel to it. We were always focused on making the matches.
Yeah.
We knew that that's how we solved the problem for both sides. But at first, we hadn't quite figured out that model. It took us a couple years of iteration to dial it all in. It certainly was not just a lightning bolt of insight that we had.
What was the moment that the business started to really grow? Because it was a little bit of a slog in the beginning, I think, and a lot of the early premise, at least that I was really attracted to, was you really were vetting the providers. Like, checking their, making sure they had a real mailing address, making sure that you had their driver's license on file, their insurance, whatever it is. Did that turn out to be an important thing or maybe less important?
It turned out to be important, but reviews were even more important. So we've seen customers become more and more comfortable with hiring people on the internet. It's generally a cultural shift that's happening. And so there isn't so much fear around this person being a bad person. There's fear around them not having the right fit, not being of the right quality, not charging the right price. That sort of professionalism and experience is what customers are really trying to audit. And the best way to sort of present that is through reviews. So I think we move beyond that just vetting to driving a ton of reviews. That's what customers really respond to. That's what they want to see.
And reviews on Yelp, which Yelp is a fantastic service. I pick a lot of the restaurants I go to, but you have to sort of look at the reviews and, check like, oh, how many reviews has this person written on Yelp? When did they join? How many friends do they have? I look at all those things in a glance before I decide to take this review seriously or not. Every review in Thumbtack is by somebody who's actually confirmed to have done business?
Yeah, so it's who came through us. So we see what the request was, and then we see what the review is. So it's tied much more specifically to an actual job. It's not a casual, just sort of drive-by review. It's this customer was looking for X, and here was how they rated the experience with this professional. And I think Yelp is great at solving the problem of where should I go. If you're trying to figure out a restaurant, a spa, something like that, it's really great for that. But it's the wrong solution when you're trying to figure out who can come to me. It's a very different problem. And for that, you really need much more of a marketplace experience because you don't have the time or the awareness to ping the whole market of painters or plumbers or tutors to find out who's available, who's interested.
We actually did this last week as we were painting our house. And how many people do you send out, hey, a house in Brentwood is looking to be painted with 10 rooms in it? Like, how do you give that lead out? Yeah, so it goes out to, on average, about 20 to 25 professionals, the ones who are in our network, who are qualified, and who serve your area. But I would think you would have 200 that serve Los Angeles or 300. So how do you pick?
That's an average. So we'll send it to all of them because what we've found is it's very hard to predict which pros are going to be available and interested. The same reason why you had to call 24 painters to find the 4 who are interested in your job, we have to do the same thing. We do it with technology, so it's much faster, but most professionals are busy at the exact moment that you want them, or they're working across town and they can't get there in time, or your job is not quite a fit for what they like to do. So that's why we have to sort of send it out broadly to find the ones who are the perfect match for you.
Is this local space becoming more so efficient that it's kind of generating new jobs and careers? Because that was one of the things, I don't think anybody who was involved in Uber in the early days, certainly I didn't think of, that this was going to be a new category of work. People thought Uber was going to be just a better way to get a Lincoln Town car, but all of a sudden with UberX you saw, oh my goodness, like somebody who's a photographer is doing this 10 hours a week to subsidize their photography. Literally, that was the person who drove me to the airport yesterday. Like, are we creating new classes of jobs in the economy by making this so efficient?
Absolutely. So, I mean, I think what you're seeing generally is like an atomization of the service sector. No longer do you as an independent professional have to work for a bigger brand or agency to get in contact with a customer. We're reducing those transaction costs for the two sides to come together, and through that, empowering professionals to work the amount that they want to work. So we see this happening a lot in the creative trades. So you were someone who wants to be a DJ, but you didn't have access to new clients. Through Thumbtack, you can finally build your book of business and become a full-time DJ. Same with photographers. If you're a plumber or a tradesman, that's something that you've committed to and you've probably made a lifestyle out of it already. But for these creative jobs that people didn't know they could do full-time, we're definitely bringing that to them. And let me just plug in one last time. I think something that would be interesting for you guys to see is the jobs that have come in just the last minute.
Great, so let's pull up the iPhone one more time.
And you're
then
about
we'll take a question from the audience or two. So if you have a question, just raise your hand. Brandon's here, he'll run over.
You're about to see our admin section. So it is...
so this is admin for you.
This is internal. And what I want to show you are the requests that have come in just the last minute. So wedding band, house cleaning, software development.
First aid training.
First aid training, landscape design, CPR training, above ground swimming pool installation, horseback riding lessons. You know, this is really the dream. We are replacing the yellow pages. And this is all coming in just the last minute, all across the country.
Life coaching, interior design, limo driving, local moving, TV mounting. I mean, in a way, you know, I always felt like what you were doing was cleaning up and structuring Craigslist. It was so appealing to me when you first shared the vision because we all felt so nervous about using Craigslist. I mean, it was an incredible, you know, innovation, and it certainly changed the classified ads, but oh boy, was it like, you felt like it was Russian roulette, like, oh my God, who's going to show up at my house?
Absolutely. And the crazy thing is, despite customers spending $800 billion a year on these categories of services, there's really been no innovation from really the dawn of newspaper classifieds or dawn of the yellow pages, because the big online players today, Craigslist, Yelp, Angie's, are really online versions of these old offline products. They haven't fundamentally reorganized how this interaction happens, and that's sort of what we've been chasing and doing for these last 4 years.
Hey, when you operate in the real world, bad things happen. Mm-hmm. How do you handle that? I mean, what's the worst thing that's happened, and how do you deal with it?
It was a big fear starting, right? You hear the stories on Craigslist or things like that. The worst thing that has happened is a pro getting prepaid for a job and then walking away. Ooh. So pocket a couple $1,000s. And we help the customer file a police report and collect that money back. But we've been shocked at how little has happened. And the reason is we are giving the customer choice. And we're giving them all the data that they need to make a confident hiring decision. So there's no... we're not forcing anybody upon them. They can do the homework, they can see the reviews, and because of that, not much has happened.
I bet you also, if you're paying $12 for a lead or $5 or $20, like if you were a grifter or criminal, you probably wouldn't want to use your real name to go buy a lead for $10.
Exactly.
It's kind of a little bit of a paper trail.
Exactly. I mean, the whole incentive structure of this industry is changing. You know, in the past, a locksmith had a lot of power over you. You were never going to see him again. You were trying to get back into your house, and he'd show up and double the charge on you, right? And you couldn't do anything about it. At this point, the locksmith on Thumbtack have a reputation. They have a permanent profile. They have a place where that reputation is going to stick with them, so they can't be a jerk to you. They can't double the price, because then they'd stop earning business. The same reason why, you know, Uber drivers are nicer than cab drivers. They've got a permanent reputation that's sort of attached to them, and so they act the part.
Let's take a question from the audience.
Yeah, so my question was, how many new services are you adding like every quarter? Like, what new services are you seeing that people want that you didn't have in your initial cachet of business? Because when you started talking, I went and I just started looking at some and see what you had and what you didn't have. So how often are you adding new things?
Yeah, we have a team of 3 people full-time who are working on our sort of category tree and questions. So things happen all the time that we haven't seen before, and we have to make the call, is it worth investing in that? So we got a recent one, was cat running. Someone looking for someone to run their cats.
Not cat walking.
Running, cat running.
It's a subsection of cat walking.
And you know what, that's probably not a big market. I'm not going to ask the team to devote too much time to that. I'd rather them sort of work on home improvement things. So we have to balance being everything to everybody versus being great at the categories we have
I think you should go ahead and do that just for the fun of it. Like, how big is your cat? 10 to 20 pounds?
Yeah,
20
exactly.
30. How far does your cat like to run?
Exactly.
What pace does your cat run? My cat does a 5-minute mile.
You'll see us for the time being not add too many. As we just flesh out the ones we have to be awesome at those. But at the end of the day, we want to be the Amazon for services. We want to be the one-stop shop anytime you need a local professional of any stripe. And so that includes cat runners on those rare occasions.
What about the sort of execs of the world or other people who are trying to Uberify different categories, like we're only going to clean houses, but we're going to do it for the specific price, for a specific time. You're going to press, one button and get that, like sort of compressing, the most common thread there. Have you thought about doing an on-demand massage or an on-demand it's house cleaning kind of thing? And
it's tricky. I think companies in our space have over-indexed on the Uber model. So Uber, if you think about it, you're renting a commodity. It's the back seat of a car. You're not hiring a person. It just happens to take a person to operate that back seat. That's very different than hiring a person who's going to come into your home and maybe be with your child. That is not a commodity purchase, so it's hard to build sort of a commodity UX around it. I look at these cleaning companies, and they're actually all on Thumbtack. Handybook, Exec, Homejoy, they get clients on Thumbtack. They're like power sellers on eBay. And we think there is room for technology-powered agencies to sort of deliver services, but I do not believe that there is one sort of house cleaner company to rule them all. If that were the case, we would have already seen more of that. Technology wasn't keeping that from happening.
Another question? You had one?
What's the most sophisticated project that's been accomplished?
Oh, we've seen like $1 million home remodels and build-ups. There was actually like a 6-story building in Brooklyn where somebody found the general contractor and the architect through us. That's certainly exceptional. We see home improvement projects typically happening in the $10,000 range. So you're adding a deck, you're remodeling a bathroom, things like that.
What does that cost to remodel a bathroom? What does that lead cost?
So
50?
General contracting leads are the most expensive ones. I think they're $35.
Do you set that price, or does the market set the price?
We do, but in looking at how the market reacts to it, and we get a lot of feedback. We have, these 60,000 plus pros who we can email and survey and say, hey, what's the typical job cost? How often are you winning? We want to set the fee appropriately. We're trying at the end of the day to help them make money. That's how we're successful.
Isn't part of the magic of Google's ad network that certain people will overpay and just because they want the client so bad?
I think the magic is that the price gets set at the margin by the market, right? That they bid it up to the point where the person with the best business model is giving Google the most margin. That's the magic.
Yeah.
And we don't have that sort of mechanism in place.
It's kind of sinister in a way, because there are people who will be like, oh, I'll lose money on my catering business I get through Google to build my brand or something, and I'll make it back somehow.
Exactly. So we've decided not to introduce that. There's no auction component. We set the price, and I think that'll stay the case for a long time.
All right, listen. Oh, one more? Okay.
Hi.
Oh, hey, David.
Hi, Jason.
Nice
Yes, I have a few questions about this. One is sort of the model of the yellow pages is not really very efficient in terms of how people tend to find what they need. Word of mouth, for example, with regard to a lot of these help services, people, believe in that. Social media, people constantly asking on Facebook, do you know somebody who can paint my house or who can do things like that? And then there's also the matter of, the people who are really busy, tend to be the best, so they're going to be least likely to be in your pool.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
So in terms of people going to their social networks, I think that's a reflection of the fact that there is until Thumbtack, no good place to go that has the insight into the market to give you a reliable introduction. If you think about 10 years ago, what would you do when you wanted to buy a camera? You'd probably ask your friends. Today, that's inconceivable. Right. You ask Amazon because the reviews on Amazon and the knowledge on Amazon is way richer than what your friends know. And I think the same is going to happen in services where people are looking for a great deal from the right pro, and we are much more likely to give it to them than a random friend on Facebook. With regard to your second question, that the best people are the busiest, I think that is true to some degree, but we've talked to a lot of professionals, and very, very, very few of them are full. are not interested in taking new business. You talk to any of these local small businesses, and they're all sort of struggling and hustling to get more clients. And that's why we've been able to attract so many of them. It's exceptional when a small business is sort of booked up.
Awesome. Let's hear it from Marco from Thumbtack. Well done.
Thanks,
awesome.
Jason.
Congratulations on the business.